Around 4,500 years ago, a scribe in ancient Mesopotamia pressed a reed into wet clay and, without meaning to, recorded one of the oldest kisses in human history. That little smear of cuneiform, baked hard and buried for millennia, is proof that people were locking lips long before anyone wrote a love poem, fought a war, or built a pyramid. So here's the question that clay tablet forces us to ask. When did humans actually start kissing? And why on earth did we ever begin pressing our mouths together in the first place? Let's start with what we can prove. In 2023, two researchers, Troels Pank Arbol at the University of Copenhagen and Sophie Lund Rasmussen at Oxford, published a piece in the journal Science that quietly rewrote the timeline. Before their work, the earliest solid evidence of romantic kissing came from a Bronze Age text in South Asia dated to about 3,500 years ago. Arbol and Rasmussen dug through the enormous library of cuneiform tablets left behind by early Mesopotamian societies in what is now Iraq and Syria, and they found something older. Clay documents describing kissing as a normal part of romance and intimacy, pushing the earliest recorded kiss back a full 1,000 years, to at least 4,500 years ago. There is even a clay model from around 3,800 years ago showing a nude couple embracing and kissing. These people were not shy. But here's the twist. Those researchers were careful to say that Mesopotamia was not the birthplace of kissing. A kiss is fleeting. It leaves no fossil, no artifact, nothing behind except a word scratched into clay. So the written record only tells us when people started writing kissing down, not when they started doing it. And the deeper you look, the further back it goes. Because in November of 2025, a team led by evolutionary biologist Matilda Brindle at the University of Oxford tried to answer the question a completely different way. Instead of reading tablets, they built a family tree. They gathered records of mouth-to-mouth contact across primates, chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, orangutans, and several monkey species, strict that it had to be non-aggressive and could not be feeding. Then, they treated kissing like any other biological trait and mapped it onto the primate evolutionary tree, running the model 10 million times to estimate which of our ancestors were likely kissers. Their conclusion is genuinely astonishing. Kissing appears to be an ancient trait in the great apes, one that likely evolved in a common ancestor somewhere between about 21 and 16 million years ago. If they are right, the first kiss did not happen in Mesopotamia. It happened tens of millions of years before there were any humans to remember it. So if kissing is that ancient, you would expect every culture on Earth to do it. And this is where the whole story turns upside down. In 2015, anthropologist William Jankowiak and his colleagues ran the first large study to actually check. They examined 168 cultures around the world, asking a simple question. Do these people kiss romantically, mouth to mouth? The answer shocked even the researchers. Romantic kissing showed up in only 46% of cultures, fewer than half. In the other 91 societies, there was no evidence of it, and some found the very idea repulsive. When the Thonga people of southern Africa first saw Europeans kissing in 1890, their reaction was disgust at such gross behavior. One Amazonian group bites each other's eyebrows as a sign of affection, but would never dream of touching lips. There was one more pattern hiding in that data, and it is a little uncomfortable. The more socially complex and class stratified a society was, the more likely its people were to kiss romantically. Hunter-gatherer communities, closest to how humans lived for most of our history, mostly did not. The researchers had a pointed warning. The assumption that everyone kisses is largely Western bias. The belief that a thing we find pleasurable simply must be universal. It is not. Romantic kissing, as you know it, may be less a deep human instinct and more a cultural habit that some societies picked up and others firmly declined. So we are left with a beautiful puzzle. The impulse to touch mouths is ancient, older than our species, yet the romantic kiss is not something all humans do. How do we square those two facts? So what is a kiss actually for? Scientists have a few competing theories, none of them fully satisfying. The oldest idea is kiss feeding. For most of human history, mothers chewed food and passed it mouth to mouth to their infants, a behavior you can still see in gorillas, chimpanzees, and orangutans. The theory says this contact slowly detached from food and got repurposed for affection. It is a lovely idea, but it has a weakness. Kiss feeding pushes food outward with the lips, and a kiss is the opposite motion, a gentle suction pulling inward. The mechanics do not quite line up. The second theory is more intriguing, and it lives right under your nose. The idea is that kissing evolved to get close enough to smell and taste a potential mate, a kind of biological background check. Your scent carries subtle signals about your immune system, controlled by a set of genes called the major histocompatibility complex. In a famous experiment, women asked to smell t-shirts worn by different men preferred the scent of those whose immune genes were most different from their own. In evolutionary terms, that pairing tends to produce children with stronger immune systems. So, a kiss, from this angle, is an excuse to pull someone close enough to have a good sniff and decide, far below conscious thought, whether the two of you are a good genetic match. And what happens in your body during that moment is real chemistry, not just poetry. When you kiss, your brain floods with dopamine, the reward chemical behind cravings that makes a first kiss feel intoxicating, and oxytocin, the bonding hormone that builds trust, while your stress hormone, cortisol, drops. A kiss really is a chemistry experiment, where you are both scientist and sample. But there's one more thing you are swapping in that moment, and it is the part most people never think about. Bacteria. A lot of it. In 2014, a Dutch microbiologist named Remco Kort studied 21 couples and calculated that a single 10-second intimate kiss transfers around 80 million bacteria between two mouths. Even more remarkable, couples who kissed at least 9 times a day ended up with measurably similar communities of microbes in their saliva. In other words, when you kiss someone often enough, you slowly begin to share a microbiome. You are merging tiny ecosystems, running a live compatibility test between two invisible worlds. Your immune system quietly is getting a preview of the bacteria it will live alongside if this relationship lasts. Of course, sharing your mouth with someone has a darker side, and the ancient world knew it. Remember those Mesopotamian tablets? Some are medical texts, describing a disease the scribes called bushanu, which caused blisters and sores around the mouth, symptoms much like the herpes simplex virus we still carry today. It is tempting to imagine a Bronze Age kiss spreading the very first cold sore. But the researchers pushed back. Kissing was already an old, established habit by then, so its role in spreading disease would have been steady, not some sudden new plague. The virus and the kiss have been quietly traveling together for a very, very long time, which brings us back to our closest living relatives. Bonobos, the apes who share almost 99% of our DNA, kiss. So do chimpanzees, who kiss to reconcile after conflict. When you watch two bonobos press their mouths together to calm a tense moment, you're looking at something that predates language, predates cities, predates humanity itself. The kiss is not really our invention. We inherited it. If you love this kind of stuff, subscribe, because I go deep on a new question about being human every single week. So when did humans start kissing? The honest answer is that we never exactly started. The gesture was already waiting for us, written into the behavior of apes, tens of millions of years before the first word was ever spoken. What we did was take that old animal impulse and pour meaning into it. We made it romance. We made it greeting, grief, blessing, and betrayal. We wrote it into clay and stone and song. And yet, for all that meaning, a kiss is still what it always was. Two creatures leaning close, trading breath and scent and a swarm of invisible life, trying in the oldest language there is to answer a single quiet question. Are you safe? Are you mine? The next time you lean in, remember, you are performing one of the most ancient acts your body knows, a conversation with no words, older than your species and still, somehow, brand new every single time.